Up next, my conversation with Spyros Tsoukalas. He introduced me to the world of no-code and low-code solutions. We spoke about all business applications for both, from early-stage startups to enterprises. Really brilliant conversation. We covered misconceptions, examples, real-life examples, intertwined with personal stories. We touched on the subject of communications and how important overall they play in project management and business relationships. And I think by the end of it, I was so encouraged to try them myself, and I've never done that before. And hopefully you will also feel encouraged, because it seems like no code and low code are a no-brainer for people who want to get a product out on the market as soon as possible in the most efficient way. That was my takeaway from the conversation. And Spyros, leading the team at Technology Without Borders, being a researcher, PhD student in the field of no code and low code, and being a mentor around those two in a couple of companies. He seemed like the right guy to take the advice from, if that makes sense. It was a fantastic conversation, so eye-opening, crazy. So without further ado, I invite you to listen to the episode and go into it with an open mind, because you just might start using one of those solutions for your own business, for your own day-to-day work. Please enjoy, and as always, I will see you on the other side. I was thinking where to start this conversation, and I think the no code is obviously the anchoring point for today's chat. And I'd love to hear from you. What's the most exciting about no code right now? What's happening right there? In a sense that why should we care about no code, low code solution at the same time?
Okay, so no code is an exciting domain these days, and it gets even better when you combine it with AI. So the AI explosion that took place in the last 2 years came on top of no code and put this trend on steroids. So I don't perceive no code or low code without AI. You can do a lot of things, but these two fields combined give a great power to those who understand where to use these technologies and what to do with them. So let's make a step back and define what no code or low code is. So because most people, I think, there are some misconceptions around the space. So no code or low code essentially means building software, various types of software, without following traditional software development methods or technologies, or not writing code. So they give you usually some visual tools, and you do visual programming, and you connect things, or you edit them. You're editing directly the UI of web pages, applications, automation. So it's a more logical process rather than a coding process, and this makes the whole process in a way easier, and at the same time quicker and more efficient. The main advantage here is that based on the specific output you want to reach, there might be specific tools that help you do this quickly, and there might be specific use cases where no code or low code are more suitable than other technologies, let's call them technologies, to build your software. For example, if you want to build a very, very simple landing page for something, or a very, very simple app for something, or something internal, but more complex, you don't have to engage, a full team of developers, designers, specialists to do that. You can find the right platform and build it in a few hours. There is a learning curve, but it's still part of it, and the cost comes really, really lower. Disclaimer: there are not low code platforms or no code platforms for everything. There are very specific use cases where this technology or this methodology is better than the previous one. So developers and traditional software engineering teams are still of a lot of importance, but there are some specific use cases that some tools can do better than the traditional technologies. And here's where this becomes an advantage. I think that in most startups or businesses, the common denominator and the most important parameter is resources. So we have to optimize how we use our resources. So low code and no code comes into play and make the software development process of some specific outputs more efficient. And as a result, it requires less money, less time, more agility. It has more agility, and this brings significant outcomes. And some very specific use cases are startup MVPs, that's very popular, are simple websites, apps, web apps, mobile apps, and then that are scalable up to a certain extent. I have seen apps extend up to thousands or tens of thousands of users being based on low code. And
Holy
then
crap.
internal apps for companies, like any process automation, business process optimization, internal dashboards, internal tools that businesses want to build. They don't have to get their developers out of their product to build something internal. They can use these platforms or outsource the development of that at a much lower rate, combine these capabilities and build their internal tools well.
I think something that immediately came to my mind when you were talking. I have an example, I guess, that MVP could have sorry, not MVP, the no code solution could have been a savior to a marketing team. We worked with a company that was highly tech, really, and they had like software engineers on board, etc., working on their product. But we as an agency, we were directly in collaboration with their marketing team, and the marketing team, they couldn't get their software engineers to help them with any website changes, like nothing, like they just were completely full. And now looking back at it, I'm like, okay, they should have just go for like no code, because
That's
literally, right, is that a good example
You
where
identified
things
a
like
great
this come into
example. Yeah, you identified a great example. I didn't bring it because I chose some other examples, but marketing teams. Let's say you want to launch an event. You want to learn to launch
yeah.
landing pages. You want to launch something that's not nuclear physics. You don't need to have a designer and UX person and developer, front end, back end, or whatever you need. You need one person knowing well one tool and then some basic aesthetics or following what your designer says, but you don't have to fully commit their hours to develop that, or at least the software engineers. So yeah, marketing teams,
Mhm.
it's it works for them. And imagine if you run events and
Yeah.
you have built a landing page with your team, with your designer, etc. once, and you have loaded in a tool, whatever that is, and then you duplicate it and you change the different events because you run one event in London or one event X date, and the landing page is there. The designer built it once, and then you replicate it, and the marketing team can definitely do that. But yeah, you save money, time, you have efficiency, agility. I mean, it's a win 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 win.
Holy crap. So,
Yeah.
so okay, so you're going like clearly you're passionate about this, and I can see the appeal very much. What are the downsides of this? This
Yeah,
has to be something.
yeah, there are downsides. There are downsides. As I was trying to highlight earlier when I was defining it, it's not suitable for every use case possible. I mean, there are
Okay.
literally thousands of tools out there. You can build with no code, from websites to automations and from voice apps to enterprise level internal apps. But there are downsides. Customization is one frequent problem. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you want something generic for 90% of the project, and then 10% might be very custom. So that's where low code comes into play. Low code in that case means that no code is, without a single line of code. Low code, you can start writing code there, so you can
Uh-huh.
add specific modules or integrations or do things that software engineers would normally do. But with the help of AI, this becomes more easy. So customization is something that it's not always doable, and teams might face barriers in some specific efforts. But then platforms like, in the case of um, mobile apps, Flutterflow does this really well. You can integrate code, and you can try and do as many things as you want. Then there are people addressing security. I'm not an expert on that, but I can see sometimes why some um, implementations and some teams who are very sensitive when it comes to data protection and all the GDPR rules, etc. There are some certain cases and certain use cases that this might be of some essence. But do you use Zapier? Are you
I do.
familiar with
Yeah.
Zapier?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a billion-dollar company moving data from one place to the other. So, I
Yeah.
mean, this
Essentially,
this
yes.
can be addressed. I mean, if someone is okay using Zapier or such tools, and I'm pretty sure they follow all the right legislation, etc. But other tools, the tiniest tool might not address that perfectly. But the more the tools grow, there are some tools with millions of users, so they probably address that in a similar manner.
You're right.
Yeah. Other downsides, sometimes integrations, etc., might become an obstacle. You might want to use a specific integration, and this might not be possible, and then costs come into play, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But in the use cases where I have used no code, we we make like 99% of the times we make it work. So yeah, It-
Interesting.
it's it's a balance and compromise that sometimes people have to make with some certain cases. For example, and I see this with startups and early stage founders. So when you build an MVP for a startup, which is a very usual use case of low code or no code, the in my experience and opinion, what you should be caring about is going to market quickly. So yeah, you might compromise some things, but the speed you will get going into market into 1 month instead of 6 or 12,
Mm-hmm.
learning from your customers, putting that out, bringing it in front of investors, whatever your priority is, this is of great value.
I firmly believe in MVP myself. I think people underappreciate how much MVP can do for them, and in today's landscape of technology, speed is, I would say, number
Yeah,
one priority.
yeah,
So if I think about the chart, the chart where you have three circles that overlap each other, and you would have speed, quality, and price. Which two do you think the no code strikes the most? I'll probably say speed and price, like it's quick and cheap.
yeah. It's quick and cheap, and depending on the tools you use and how you build, it can have or have not quality.
Okay, I see.
I mean, you
So
can build really, really good stuff. You can build stuff that if you put them side by side with traditional software, some people might not be able to understand the difference. They
wow.
won't be able to understand that this is, some type of software without custom code.
Oh
Sometimes
my
it's
god.
not. You cannot distinguish it. You have to be. I mean, you can figure it out by looking at the calls on the page, etc. If you go and search,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Webflow, for example, is competing
Mm.
with is a low code. It's a no code website builder, pretty popular. It's competing with WordPress. I mean, and there are enterprises moving from WordPress to Webflow. I mean, that tells us something. Um, it's not I can't accept people saying throw no code away. There are significant companies and having market shares out there. Wix, are you familiar with Wix?
Absolutely.
I mean, they have important market shares. They are doing something great, probably.
I was going to drag website builders into this conversation, but you did it before me. So Wix, Webflow, Squarespace, all those companies, they are essentially no-code solutions, right? They
No or
you just
low.
drag and drop,
Yeah,
or maybe low-code. You're actually
yeah,
right. There are
yeah,
companies who adjust Webflow templates, etc., with the code for the client's requirements.
yeah.
That's yeah, that's a very interesting point. I spoke with Sam from Design for Dex just a few weeks ago. He works primarily with early stage startups when they need to pitch for funding, and he said that Webflow is huge with them. Like most startups in SaaS, which are tech orientated, these people know code. They still go for Webflow or similar.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
So,
crazy. It's
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So this is a common misconception when it comes to no code or low code. It's not a trend that was built to lower the barrier of entering the tech space for citizen developers. I mean, because many people perceive it as just how you can learn how to do things in tech. I mean, it works
Yeah.
like that, but I don't think that's the most dominating use case of using these technologies, low code, no code plus AI. I mean, even people who know, who are engineers, they can use it in order to maximize their efficiency. I mean, why custom coding from scratch something that, let's say that you are a technical founder and you want to take a product in the market.
Hmm.
Why would you sit for 6 months working on something that you cannot validate that it works and not take it into the market, take it to the market in 3 weeks with no code to test it? I mean, that's just more entrepreneurial, in
It's
my opinion, at
crazy.
least.
Yeah, yes. I
So
mean, if
it,
you waited 6 months, it's just waste of time and money, really.
yeah, so low code, no code is a tool in the hands, in the proper hands. It helps non-developers learn how to do things
Yeah.
in the same manner that Canva makes non-designers or non-Photoshop experts do a very nice presentation. It helps non-tech people get into tech, maybe, but then they still have to invest the time and learn how to do things properly, which would
Hmm.
be equivalently to learning code to do something else. So a front-end developer or a Webflow developer that doesn't know any front-end, they have to develop similar ways of thinking to handle front-end development when it comes to websites, for example, or website development. But yeah, it's a skill.
It is. It almost seems like it's a different career path.
Yeah, it is.
It's like because the change in the mindset of a person building the thing with the actual code versus the no code, it's it's different. It's like it requires different type of thing, different framework of thinking.
Yeah, actually, it involves from UX and UI understanding to
Yeah,
product to strategy to go to market. You have to combine all those to
I
make
see.
this work. Because if you build
Oh.
your first product for the first time, let's say, which will be more complex than your fourth, but if you, let's say, you build a web app with no code, you have to figure out how to take it to the market, the strategy behind, the UI, the UX, the user interactions. You are becoming the product owner and the go-to-market marketeer at the same time, all these combined. But that's what founders do. I mean, if you are an early
You're right.
stage founder, that's what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
And
So I think it would
funny
be
thing, that's mind blowing. I was in the No Code Summit 2 weeks ago,
yeah.
and in France, because No Code Summit takes place in Paris. Uh, great summit for no code. And in France, they have recognized, as far as I understood, no code builders as a new profession. It's a new job profession. In their legislation, there is,
What? Really?
yeah.
Holy,
I
that's
mean,
great.
yeah. I mean, France is a big country. A lot of people care about this. So, I mean, when they told me, I was like, what? I
Yeah.
mean, in Greece, we might be, 20 no-code builders or 100, and it's a whole profession there.
Yeah, yeah. That's very interesting. So I wonder if you can apply for visa as a no-code developer or user, like as a specialty of yours. You know,
Yeah, I
that'd
don't
be
know.
really
I don't
funny.
know. Yeah,
Holy
but they
crap!
are
I didn't
taking it
know.
really seriously. I mean,
No, I mean
yeah,
it sounds like you should because it's a powerful tool, right? Uh, so I think you said it very well. the no code allows you to stay on the business or product level of thinking rather than worrying about what's down below with UI, like all the meeking,
Yeah,
tweaking
yeah,
of user experience. It's already taken care of. You stay here, you think of the bigger picture, and the rest is being taken care of. I think this is a really nice way to sum it up, right?
yeah. Can I give another good example of another good use case?
Yeah. Yeah,
Imagine you're a
absolutely.
mature product, mature company,
Okay.
doing something, having a product, having users, everything working, and you grow, and you want to test something. You want to test a new channel, you want to test a new part of the model, you want to prototype something. Why not prototyping that rapidly with low code? Even, for example, Airtable. Airtable is a great database that can do a lot of things. Use
Yeah.
Airtable, do a few tweaks there, offer it in a specific segment of your users, test it, find the value, identify everything there, test everything, and then move it to integration with your main product, production, etc. Why not
Okay.
doing that?
Right. So you also suggest to use no code tools as ideation validation stage.
Yeah, why not doing that? I mean, instead of
Hmm.
going directly and building the feature, or engaging your engineering team for 3 months to build something great, you still have to validate it. I mean, unless you
True,
know it, of
absolutely.
course. And imagine in the past, when I started working in the startup sector, it was all about mockups and designs and Figma and minor interactions and seeing the flows.
Yeah.
In Figma and all these tools are still great, they're still very useful, but when it comes to testing value with users nowadays, in my work at least, I go directly to the building phase after some early research. I don't go to the mock-up stage and then to the building stage. I can build something that's functional
Hmm.
and remove all this would be that, this would work like that, from the mock-up to
Yeah.
something functional, even if the functional thing has some less capabilities. The balance
That's
in
really
that in
fascinating.
the balance in that process has changed a little bit, because you can make something that's functional very quickly, and you can test it live even if it has a few less features or properties than the design itself.
I think I don't know how long you've been in the I guess software business. I remember working as a student, as a web developer in a local agency, and the waterfall method of building website was extremely slow. Those people didn't hear about agile just yet, and don't get me wrong. I mean, agile has been around since 2001, but that particular agency was very traditional,
Yeah,
and so every time they had to build a website. And they were talking with the client, they would first create this like 20-page long document with scope, try to predict everything they think will be necessary, every plugin, every page, whatever. And then they would create wireframe, which is very black and white, very basic. Client wouldn't even know what's what because they were just squares and shit. Like, yeah. And then they would do something low fidelity, then high fidelity, and so on and so on. Like so many stages, so many resources wasted. With solutions like no code, which are powered by AI, we essentially lower down the barrier of entry in terms of cost and man hours required to build something that's high fidelity. Um, and therefore, we can jump a few steps ahead
exactly,
from the initial idea conception to actual testing without going through all the scoping, all the wireframing, all the back and forth. That feedback loop is almost instant. It's just so quick and cheap. And hell,
exactly.
I mean, that's great. Like, it's such a win-win.
And
So
AI also changes these processes rapidly. I mean, it.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. I think what things like this, the no code, low code, AI overall, what it does, it makes the cumbersome work um, quicker, easier, more efficient, and so we can focus on what matters most, which is the creative business level thinking.
yeah,
And I really appreciate. I'm so glad we're having this conversation because I was not really aware of the power behind no code. The way we do any website is that we build a high fidelity prototype in Figma, but it never occurred to me, why not just load up Webflow and just make it interactive right there?
Yeah, depending on what you build and what's the process you want to follow, you might want to choose one or the other process over the other alternative. But yeah, it could work like that. It could work.
So you do, you obviously work with clients. You have a like process, right, where no code takes a part of it.
Yeah,
There are also workshops and ideation and all of that. Can you take me through an example project
yeah,
that you engage with
definitely,
clients?
definitely,
Great,
definitely.
go for it.
So we don't do websites.
Okay,
Uh,
fine.
my
Okay, well,
team,
fine.
my
One
team
out of
doesn't
the
do it.
window.
We only do our own websites, and we're not very happy with them sometimes. So
Okay,
there are people
gotcha.
that are better than us on websites.
Yeah, sure.
So what we do well is along the years. So this is how my team shaped. We tried to take our own products to the market, and we learned using
Mm,
low code tools and no code tools for ourselves. And then we did it again and again. So we got some expertise in some areas, some specific tools here and there, Glide apps, for example, or Flutter Flow, or
mm,
Power Apps, which is an enterprise level Microsoft product. So we that's how we developed our expertise. So when someone nowadays then we turned this expertise into services to keep our team sustainable and profitable up to a certain extent, so that we can then identify our next big thing, whatever it is. It could be low code services, I don't know, we will see.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So let's say that we have a new project.
Okay.
So what I do is I've engaged with the, let's call them client or partner. Partner, I prefer partner actually. So with the new partner, we engage and we discuss about what they want to do, what's their vision, if they are a startup, how solid are their hypotheses, how much have they, how much research they have done. So I'm trying to double check all the things that have gone wrong with my previous products,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have to educate them on how no code or low code can benefit them. And we have to at least reach a common ground so that we both understand the same. I sometimes challenge their products and their hypotheses, and I encourage them to go investigate further, or try to suggest a balance that they should be, because especially first time founders, they think that the product will do everything. Yeah, so you have to convince them to go and spend their time, the founders, to marketing and sales, and you can take away the product part so that you can accelerate this costly process for a new startup.
Mm-hmm.
So then, and I will reach a very important point soon. Then let's say that we have reached a common ground, we have a common vision, we understand what this is going to be about and what they want to build. Then you have to get the requirements. So you have to identify and list all the things they envision building and distinguish them, let's say, in two categories: things that should be included in the MVP and things that
Okay.
shouldn't be included in the MVP.
Mm.
And based on what you will do there, you have then it's a skill of the team that will take over the development, is which tool is suitable for building this. Are we talking about a prototype that
Mm.
will only be visible to 10 users and investors to highlight the value? Is it something that we want to launch and reach 100 customers, 100 paying customers, 1,000 customers, 10,000 customers? There's a different
Mm-hmm.
approach that needs to be followed based on this. How custom do we want the UI to be? Minor details that change significantly the output. So you have to
Absolutely.
go through this, and then we usually define a timeline, and we say, okay, the first 2 weeks, for example, we will be working internally, creating a few things, researching a few things. I usually do feasibility before starting a project. So I run a feasibility study based on everything they have shared with me to identify if there will be any bottlenecks ahead of us. So, and then we start building, and then we start iterating with the founding team frequently to test, etc., adjust. And something that's amazingly important is not only pivots, but adjustments. Let's say that
Mm.
you want to change a flow and adjust a few screens and buttons to do something else than originally. If you work with traditional software, there is a danger there, a danger of losing time and danger of adding a lot of costs, and a danger of derailing the whole project because of the changes. At least us, but I think most low code or no code developers would follow something similar. You are very agile and very quick. So let's say that you come to me and tell me, move this button there, adjust the flow like that, and make the screen, rearrange the screen, and do this. That's fairly easy. So, or fair,
Mm.
not as complex as it would be if you had,
Absolutely, yeah.
a more traditional approach.
Okay. Okay. Wow. 1 second. Okay. So first of all, quick question: why partners, no clients?
So yeah, that's important for me. So when I work with
Hmm.
people, I like making deep relationships with them. I don't like
I love that.
simple. You give me
Okay.
that, I give you that. That's all. So I prefer investing in my relationship with them, and then their success is my success as well. So if they
Yes.
fail, I have failed with them as well. I would prefer to decline in working with someone if I sense that this might not be go well, rather than
Yes.
engaging with them, working with them, and then they fail and I fail. So I want
Yeah.
them to
I
succeed
understand.
because I will succeed with them.
Sure.
So the relationship gets that deep that we are essentially professional friends or partners. It's not like the more typical
I
client
think I
thing.
am very much aligned with you on that one. I mean, I only work with a few select businesses. I really never like go for quantity. It's just a few quality good relationships, and that works perfect. Uh, the way I say this is instead of working for someone, I work with someone. It's a huge difference in one word, and I really like the nuance. I mean, we don't have we are membership based company, so we have members, but it's still far away from clients because it just suggests a collaboration, right? And that's beauty. That it's beautiful. I love collaboration, and so that's I was just wanting to hear your thoughts on this one, but I totally align with you. One point that's also important when you have good quality relationship is that I believe people trust each other a bit more, and that can make the research phase, which you described, easier, better, and more in depth. So I am wondering, how do you do that research, like in finer detail? Like, what's the conversation around? How much does it take for them to grasp the idea of no code? Have they even heard about it? Like, can you just tell me a little bit about that early stage in the project, stakeholder alignment, all of that? I would love to know how it goes with you.
Yeah, so sometimes they don't know about it, or sometimes they get to know about it, or you have to
Mm-hmm.
educate them. And this is part of a longer cycle of discussions, and it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in my case, I'm as transparent as I can be. I mean, that's investing in the relationship. I want to
It's probably
really
the best way, yeah.
yeah, I want to
Mm.
really help them understand what they can do and what they cannot do, and what's the balance there. And I prefer working with open-minded partners that you can communicate well with them. And when you say no to something, or when you say something, when in the future you say this is not feasible at this stage or at this MVP, they will be able to perceive that, and not suddenly change their mind about everything.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
get that.
I
Yeah.
mean, probably you have been there, experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, feasibility there for me means trying to identify all the potential bottlenecks that might occur. That will help you make a realistic timeline. And yeah, but when it comes to education, there are two types of people: welcoming or not welcoming low code, no code, etc. in their startup or their processes. And the toughest audience is developers themselves, for the obvious reasons. But
Of course. Yeah.
I have seen technical people using low code recently with a lot of success. I mean, they are either open minded when they hear about it and they are trying to identify the value they can find there, or completely defensive and rejecting them. I had I recently attended a workshop, and I mean I was the one leading the workshop, and in the end, what I was getting is that either people loved what we shared there or totally hated it, and the
Uh-huh.
segmentation was because there were defenses raised because they were technical people.
Oh yeah,
But
it
yeah,
yeah it poses danger to their job. So obviously they're gonna be
not
defensive.
yeah, but not really. They can use it. They can use it as a tool to make their life easier. I mean, I might be talking a lot about no code. I never said that, let's throw developers or traditional software engineering in the
I know,
trash.
but they
I
might
mean, I
hear it.
highlighted
Yeah.
it earlier. I'm just, I'm talking about something and the benefits this brings.
Mm,
I know, and disclaimer, hey, it's not feasible, it's not suitable for everything. There are specific use cases that it works better, but, software engineering is still what everything is based on. I mean, I don't reject that.
I mean, someone has to build no code tool as well,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I'm pretty sure that a team that has, very, very, very intense software engineering and a lot of engineers working there, they have processes, automation needed, all these things. Why not? Why hard coding everything? I mean, they can use other tools to make their life easier.
What? So you said developers. Who's the other group that is usually needs some help with understanding how no code works? Is like
Oh no, no.
marketers or?
Most people that do not. I mean, no, no. Developers are the is the type of audience that I have seen mostly rejecting these type of technologies because it it's a shortcut when it comes to coding, and they are coding. So there's a conflict there. But
Totally get that. Yeah.
in when you have to when I have to engage with people that and talk about projects, there are either people that know about low code, no code, and the benefits, and either people that do not know a lot, and you have to guide them. I mean, there's not a specific segmentation there. To be honest, I haven't observed anything very specific.
Okay. So usually when you engage with teams in conversation, I guess, around the tools for the job, you apart from maybe developers who feel like it's rendering them obsolete, people don't really fight back. They're like probably more even hyped about it, right? Because it screams efficiency, and people love efficiency because it's money saving.
Yeah. So the the discussion usually starts from I want to build my MVP. So MVP is the
Okay.
goal. Building an MVP is the goal. So there are teams that are open to working with external people to do that, which is, as I highlighted earlier, highly beneficial in terms of efficiency because they deal with sales and marketing. If you have developers in your own team and the timeline is realistic, they do it in house. So I
Yeah.
mean that's fine. And then what you do is so they are willing to outsource it, and you come and they engage with you. And then we are defining, as I said earlier, the MVP scope and how you can build the MVP. And at some point, if they start talking to multiple people, it will become obvious that a more traditional, maybe software development team might not always, might take longer and might cost more. So the usual options and comparisons highlight that. So a low code team, no code team might save money, gain speed, and agility. So
Yeah, I think that's a good summary. However, one thing I would like to really query you about is when you work with stakeholders in a company, before you, I guess the very definition of MVP is obviously minimum viable product, but it's all about priorities, which you already mentioned.
yeah,
How do you approach creating the list of priorities? I know you said like, must haves, could haves, but it's nice in theory. People like you probably work with multiple stakeholders, they have different agenda preferences requirements. How do you get to the point where everyone is set on their expectations and they sing from the same page and they don't mind the priority list anymore? They happy with it?
yeah, through productive dialogue.
Okay.
Communication is key. I mean, we have to agree on something, so it ends up going back and forth with healthy communication and establishing healthy
Hmm.
communication channels. Then you will make it work.
I think
Yeah,
what really helps us in workshop is having that long term goal. And you also mentioned, like, I mean, obviously they want MVP, but there is a business decision behind wanting that MVP. And I think if you put that North Star in front of people and you assess the situation where you are right now, creating that list of priorities to get you through the thing, it becomes a bit. easier, I would say. It's I think most projects where they fail, and tell me if this is the same with no code, is because stakeholders just can't agree. Like there's such a misalignment in wants and needs that the project can't even get off the ground yet. So that's just my experience. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen projects taking forever to go to market.
Hmm.
My projects in the past, when I wasn't very experienced, I had the same pain point. It took forever to go to market. It took forever to apply the changes. It took forever to build, and it took forever to learn to not follow your hypothesis blindly, because we're very, our ego goes upwards, when we
Oh
think
yeah,
something is right, and it's easy to make mistakes there.
yeah. I think it's human nature, right? Especially when you work with people in management, in leadership. This is the room full of people with ego, and
Yeah,
obviously they all want something for themselves, for their career, for their reputation. And I mean, our goal as an external service provider is to get them back to the ground and get them to agree on something so we can actually proceed. Uh,
yeah.
Something you mentioned just a few minutes ago is a visibility study. Could you speak to it? Like what is
Feasibility,
it?
feasibility.
Feasibility study.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
feasibility.
feasibility.
Yeah.
Gotcha. How does that work? Like, what's the process behind that?
Yeah, so we start from the list of requirements for an MVP or a product or an internal, product for a team or a company,
Yeah.
and we're trying to identify, what they want to do, how, and how they envision it taking place, etc. And then we're trying to highlight or identify the bottlenecks, like what's will make our life hard, or what will most
Mm.
probably not work smoothly, and why, what's the complication there, or you know for example, let's say that you want to build a solution that you build, let's say a scheduling solution, and you book a meeting, I book a meeting with you, and then this automatically books four more meetings with four other people in different slots. That's not something that works off the shelf. I mean, this is a complicated workflow, and you have to identify what's going to work, what's not going to work, what, the risks, etc. So
Mm.
we're trying to identify the most difficult parts of what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And and in my case, we do research before starting the project. I mean, I prefer preparing that in advance and be able to address and say everything in advance. Like, this is going to work. This has these challenges. This has these challenges, etc. Or do as much as we need to make us feel safe, and communicate that to the partner. Like, we will have to do this and this and this work, but 70% this is going to work. 30% we'll have to do some extra work to make it work, etc. So we're trying to do risk mitigation, essentially.
That's the one way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I like this perspective of what can prevent us from achieving a goal. It's a very good question to ask, and it's a very important question to ask. And then I assume, and you can tell me if this is right, once you identify the obstacles, potential obstacles, you go out and find just enough data to support the thesis.
yeah.
And so then you can make a better decision, like educated decision, whether that's worth the investment or is it too risky, right? That's
Exactly,
probably the most
exactly,
sensible way to approach this.
exactly. And
When you
as
talk
we
about,
said as we said
yeah,
earlier, when you work with a partner, their success is your success, and your success is their
absolutely.
success. So yeah, I mean, you're trying for that.
I love that. It's such a healthy thinking, and it makes you it's such a better partner to just work with. Like I honestly, you are in their corner. You want to
Yeah,
help them so they can
yeah.
help you. It's that
I
simple.
want
There's
I want
always
to be
like,
perceived as a co-founder. Essentially, I'm working with the mentality
yeah,
of a co-founder.
true. That's good too. Yeah, I mean the way I describe it to the client is, imagine as if I was sat in your office and you could just turn to me and talk to me. That's the relationship I'm trying to have. Just sort of very personal, very intimate, and just to the point, helpful, based on trust. I mean, that's the way to handle business in my book. People might not not agree, but you definitely agree with me on that one. So that's awesome. Whenever you describe how this works in the backend, the tool itself, you said the button example, right? If you want the
Yeah.
button to do this and that, can you help people listening to this imagine the interface? Can we compare it to something that already exists? Like, I don't know, maybe HubSpot automations, like something that can ground it in reality for people. How do you manage that?
You mean when we are trying to help them understand how the development process works or the output?
The development process.
So it depends on their background. Um,
Hmm.
Most people do not care about that.
Oh,
So
really?
they just want to see the output. If the
Okay,
output
wow.
works, that's everything they care about. The most usual
Hmm.
analogy we do is helping them think in Google Sheets format. So non-technical people, they perceive technology as a black box that can do everything. And a
Hmm.
simple analogy that I have sometimes used, because actually sometimes you use Google Sheet style of databases as databases.
Hmm.
Airtable works in a similar manner, or a lot of databases that can be used work in a similar manner. Tables and rows.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you help them think in that direction.
Okay, and that just helps them imagine what's happening behind the closed door, essentially.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that's good. That also goes to the transparency of the process, and I
yeah,
think it really helps people to visualize where the value is, right?
yeah.
So that's great. This entire conversation so far has been heavily underlined with client communication, business relationships, having healthy team. How do you think of communication with the client? Like, what's the secret sauce for you to keep it healthy, keep it on track, to make sure nothing is lost in translation, and that despite the extreme flexibility of no code, you can do the thing once and
Yeah.
never come back to it, or at least for a while.
So you have to establish the relationship with the person before actually adding the value of no code or low code in it, because this applies to
Mm-hmm.
every business relationship or every personal relationship or every business relationship internally in a company. So I have a theory I have created here.
Okay.
So this was developed after years and years of practice in some areas. So I perceive my relationships with people, business relationships with people, but there is an analogy for personal relationships as well, following the following pyramid. So the first thing that I ask, let's say that I'm onboarding a new person in my team or a new partner. So I'm asking them, we have to agree on the following. The first pillar of our relationship is wanting. So you want to work with me and I want to work with you. Okay? If we don't
Okay,
work to
got
work
it.
to work together, if we don't want to work together, everything else is nonsense. So
Meaningless. Yeah.
meaningless, exactly. Imagine in a personal relationship, trying to engage with someone personally, and you don't want them or they don't want you. I mean, it's
Yeah.
nonsense.
Just
It's
won't
nonsense.
work.
Yeah, it won't
Yeah,
work. The second pillar of this small pyramid is communication. So
yeah.
even if we want to work together or in a personal relationship, even if we want to be together, if we don't communicate well, this is gonna be confusing, annoying, a mess. I don't know what. So
Hmm.
you have to establish healthy communication channels, especially at the professional relationship. But I think still the personal relationship analogy still stands. I mean,
Hmm.
because you have to have the ways to address the problems, the difficult situations. When everything goes well, everyone is happy, no one cares. So I mean, when challenges arise, you have to have healthy communication channels to address the problems, to share negative
Absolutely.
feedback, but also you have to share positive feedback. You have to reinforce the bond there. So that's something that for me is non-negotiable. If I sense that someone will say yes to this but will not follow it, I prefer not working with them, because this will make both me and them miserable eventually. And then
that makes sense.
the third pillar is taking care of your work or my work. This means, and especially with the attention spans that we have nowadays, this means that I will take care of the work I have to do, and I will not do it, quickly or messy just to check the checkbox. This works either when I'm working for someone, with someone, or when someone works with me. I mean, you have to take care of your work. So this summarizes the values that I want to put in the relationships I build with people, either when they are join my team or when I work with them. I mean, these are important for me.
So just to recap for people, we start with wanting to work with each other. And
Yeah.
this is probably hugely, and correct me if I'm wrong, based on some kind of instinct, intuition towards a person. You can almost like a sense what kind of people they are, apart from obviously reaching out to you and wanting your help, right? But you also want to make sure you guys are on the same wavelength in terms of like just being as a person, right?
Yeah.
It's just common sense in a relationship, whether romantic or business or with friends. It goes the same way. So
It's
that's the first.
instinct plus the impressions and the data you collect in the first discussions before you reach some type of agreement or something.
Impressions and data as well. Okay.
I mean, you collect
Okay.
data
So
from the way they communicate, from the way they write emails, from the way they behave in meetings. You collect data for them.
oh, right. Okay. See that. Oh, you bring us such a good point. Holy crap. I had this email. Oh my God. I had this email from a guy. He inquired about our services and he wrote without any line break, any space, any comma, nothing. Like
Exactly.
six, 7 lines of requirements in one paragraph, if you can call it that. I'm not kidding you. I used ChatGPT to make sense out of it. I just couldn't understand what's the point, what he's trying to say. So if someone can't articulate themselves in writing, I probably don't want to work with them because they're gonna be calling me all the time and dumping all the thoughts on me for me to process it and make sense out of it. I want them to do the work before writing to me and giving just the conclusion. That's just how I like to communicate. I like to think for myself and then pass on the thought that is actually processed, well thought, and right there for taking. So that's a very good point that we're bringing up.
You do the same thing when you engage, with the boy or girl at a personal level. After the first interactions get you on some avenue of what you think about that person, if you like them, if you don't like them, and how this
Yeah,
evolves, because you
yeah.
still don't truly know them. It's just
It's
surface.
surface level.
Yeah, surface
Exactly.
level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh, perfect. Okay, so okay, that makes total sense. So you just want to get a sense of who those people are and whether there's a wanting behind working with them. Perfect. Then we move on to communications, which I think like they never really go away, right? Comms are like yes, first there's the will to work together, but comms are like this glue that holds everything together. Uh,
Yeah.
and you during that phase, you try to communicate positives, negatives, and everything in between, and make sure no information gets lost in communication. Have you got any favorite maybe tools that you use for communication to organize your thoughts and critique, feedback, all of that? How do you handle that?
So, one clarification and then the answer.
Hmm.
I think that healthy human relationships, communication is the means to make them happen. So you have to establish the best communication possible in order to make this relationship, this partnership successful. So
Hmm.
succeed. So that's the why behind this, and then the tools. Initially, it has to be face to face. I mean, it has to be like that. You get to know the other person way better if you see them talk and move,
Oh yeah, you see them like
especially
body language,
live,
right? Yeah,
especially live. And
yeah.
then you have to start establishing trust, and all this with the way you get to know each other, the way you hang out together, etc.
Hmm.
And then tools could be email. Of course, you can't live without email. My favorite tool for communications is Slack. I mean,
Hey.
we use Slack. I organize myself in Notion. I live in Notion,
Okay.
and yeah. But essentially, tools about communication. It's you in the beginning and your human to human connection, and then everything else will shape properly.
One point on that part. I mean, you live in Notion, I live in Basecamp. I mean, same thing, different toilet. Okay, but
Yeah.
basically, what's happening is with communications. When I find the biggest challenge is when you bring in other people on the partners team. You may have a great rep with the decision maker, but then there comes someone else who's just underneath them or different department, and they're essentially dicks.
Yeah.
How do you, first of all, how do you handle that? Because obviously you have a great rep with decision maker. You don't want to like really drop that client because of that random person, but at the same time you have to include them in all of those comms. um so email naturally to me sounds a bit not suitable because things get lost in email, especially if you like CC7 people or whatever. How do you think about communication with the larger team rather than one to one, which is the initial point of contact, obviously?
So what you describe is tough. I have been there. I have been in the
Me too.
position.
That's
You
why I'm
know,
asking, man. Yeah.
yeah. And in the last such experience that I had, I failed. I mean,
Hmm.
I failed to reach the point where I would be happy with the outcome of this relationship because I still have a great relationship with the decision maker, but then the person I was in contact with, I didn't like how the behavior I received. I mean, the
Yeah.
project ended. It's a real example. The project ended, and I was
Okay.
just kicked out of Slack. I was never, nothing like, "Hey, it was great working with you," or "This is my feedback," or blah blah blah. I was just kicked out of Slack, and I
Wow.
was
You
like,
kidding me?
"No." Everything was taken out of my control by the time we reached the stage we wanted, and honestly, we had a difference in time zones, and I was working overnight to be able to be responsive to their needs.
Okay.
So I was staying awake later in my day. I wasn't sleeping actually because we had a big time zone difference, just to be there when they wake up and we communicate, and then I start addressing their problems.
Hmm.
So I did that for 2 or 3 weeks, every second day or so, just to, that was my investment in their success, in the success of the project.
Sure. Yeah.
And I was just kicked out of some Slack channels, and never said goodbye. I couldn't do anything to address that.
Oh
I
my
asked for
god.
feedback multiple times. The feedback I was getting, at least from the decision maker, was great, but I couldn't do anything to address that. I mean, you can't solve or make everything work. That's
No,
life. That's
absolutely, and it's not
Yeah.
on you. I think, but it
It
just
might be on
it,
me, but they haven't communicated to me. That's key, communication.
that's
I
the
have
thing.
asked for feedback like 4 times, and everything
Yeah.
was great. I was asking for feedback, like tell me what's going wrong or what's going well, and every time it
Hmm.
was super great. I accepted that, but
Yeah.
then it might be on me, but I never got to know what was that.
Yeah. I find. Yeah, I've been there too. People are, they don't like to have tough conversations,
Yeah,
I think,
true.
and that
That's
goes
that's
for
why.
every relationship,
Yeah.
right? No, exactly. They don't like to cause someone to be sad or mad, or they don't like confrontation either. But I think, I mean, you have to get over it and just do it. Like, I know it hurts. It might turn into something nasty, but there's no other way forward but just to talk about it.
Yeah.
How
Hiding
else do
it
you gonna
under the
solve this?
carpet, as we say in Greek,
Oh,
doesn't.
we say that too in Poland.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Hiding it
absolutely.
under the
Yeah,
carpet probably makes
exactly.
things worse,
It
at
really
least at
does.
some point. Yeah.
It does. I mean, eventually you have to lift that carpet and clean it up. Like, there's it's just too much dirt under there. But Yeah, we've been there too with our past clients, and some relationship ended because the poisoned apple just kind of destroyed the whole thing. Like someone else, like a, you know, 3 steps of the ladder lower person in the hierarchy would join the project for a moment, and we would be so much desynchronized, it would just have a domino effect on the whole thing, and we would just have to part ways. Like there's no other way. Either that, obviously they're not gonna fire an internal person over an agency.
Yeah.
I mean, why like, there's just common sense. Obviously that's the employee. They have um responsibility towards that employee. So obviously the agencies has to go. So that's how it is, unfortunately. But nonetheless, hey, people, anyone listening, we try our best. Okay, we're trying to be reasonable. We just just talk to us and be fine. Um, okay, so we have comms, and then final one is I think one word that came to my mind when you were describing the last step, which is taking care of work, is simply accountability.
Yeah,
Would you say?
could be. Yeah, yeah, I would say that. The reason I learned that initially the pyramid had two pillars,
All
wanting
right.
and comms, but
Uh-huh.
then I started working with Gen Z too much, and then I realized that the attention span that even I have sometimes is so
Yeah.
small. And people, it's like, ping pong. You ping someone to do something and then they pong you, and then you ping them
Yeah.
and then they pong you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people want to get rid of stuff quickly. And as a result, this reduces the quality of work, accountability in essence. So, yeah,
Hmm.
that's why this pillar was added.
It makes sense to add it in. I think finally, and I don't know if you ever thought about it that way, but accountability and division of responsibilities is a fundamental principle of agile. And I love how it all overlaps. Like you have no code, which is extremely flexible. You have communication, which need to be quick, to the point, concise, and people need to take. We're literally describing agile manifesto here.
Yeah.
It's great, and I'm so glad to see no code being so well fit for the purpose, and I need to take more advantage of that. Definitely. And speaking of Gen Z, we had a client complaining about, yeah, comms with Gen Z, but we love you guys. It's fine. It's just that, you know, we are like I guess we have a different way to approach communication. I don't know how about you, but I remember world before the internet.
Yeah.
So
I
uh,
remember the world before mobile phones.
th-
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
So I mean, such a huge gap in terms of expectations and means of communication. I still look. All this chat, I'm holding a pen in my hand. Okay, that says it all. I keep taking notes. Uh, Gen Z would probably have a mobile phone in their hand and just keep taking notes. So that's a difference. But
Yeah.
it just means to an end, really. Um, okay, no, I really like this process. That makes so much sense. I'm not gonna steal it. It's fine, but I might
You can
use it
steal
here
it.
and there.
You can share it and quote me.
Okay, I will tag you. Oh, I promise.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
I
right. Look,
I have applied for a patent, but yeah.
you have?
No,
Oh
I'm joking.
no.
I'm joking.
I need to be no. Okay, good. Phew. Okay. Look, is there anything else about no code that I haven't asked you about? Is there anything else we should cover so people
Yeah.
get better
So
understanding of it?
yeah, I want to share something that's more related to my work with no code. So
Yeah.
the
Awesome.
reason I fell in love with no code is because at some point about 5 years ago we were raising money for a company, and at some point during that process one of our co-founders, the developer, left. So I was
In the middle
forced.
of it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh my
We
god.
had taken hands with investors to get some money, and our core developer left. We didn't take the money,
Oh.
and I'm very sad I didn't take. Actually, my career would be a lot different if I had done that. But
Mm.
I realized that I don't want to be depending on a fellow that I don't fully, trust. And back then, I lost that fellow, so I decided to bring this in my line of work. So I started
Yeah.
building whatever I was building with no coding. That's how my team, myself and my team, got into this world. And I fell in love with it that much that at some point in my career, when a university invited me to do a PhD with them, I told them, I work with no code or low code. And, right now I'm studying as, a side hustle, the impact of low code and no code at early stage product development, which
Mm.
is essentially what I do for a living, but I just repurpose this work in the academic field. But what I want to highlight actually here is, so think, low code, no code, and AI technologies are extremely useful from enterprise level to startup level. But even enterprise level, even at enterprise level, companies use no code or low code because of the efficiency of the resources it gives them. So imagine companies with a lot of resources still have the need to use such ways of thinking and approaches to make their processes and their the way they work more efficient and etc. So saving money, gaining time, agility, and all this.
Yeah.
Imagine this at places where resources are scarce, there are not a lot, like startups or even the social sector. So a big part of my work nowadays is how these technologies, plus AI, of course, AI included always nowadays,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
can change the way social technology is built. And when I say social technology, I don't mean, a big, huge company releasing something that's social. I'm talking about non-profits or social businesses at small level, similar to startup level, only not having either the entrepreneurial or the technical part of their teams. So no code or low code can highly benefit the creation of social technology or the development of non-profits and social businesses because they have an even greater need of resources
True.
being time, money, talent, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And these technologies essentially can help them in some cases or in a lot of cases do things better, go to market, increase their audiences, etc. So I spend some of my time into an organization that I have established that's called Technology Without Borders, and
I
that's
love the
how we
name.
do, yeah, that's how we do education, workshops, free support,
Mm.
mentoring, and all this around these topics, or we even build sometimes.
So, would you say that the main advantage of no code for those companies is essentially uh, efficiency?
Yeah, when it comes to resources.
That's actually very
Bec-
good point. Yeah.
because again, the same, they save money, they need less money to
Mm-hmm.
build it if they invest
Mm-hmm.
money, less time, and less talent because that's expensive. I mean, if
It
you
is. Oh yeah.
need people to build something, and they are expensive.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
That's very true. So you said enterprise is still inclined to use no code, just like you know companies that have scarce resources. I don't know if you agree, but just came to my mind right now. Essentially, the way I see enterprise company is bunch of little startups inside of it. Like, I mean, you have a huge enterprise bubble, and inside you have small, tiny startups, aka projects that have to be still, agile and work towards common goal that the enterprise needs. And they all of them can essentially use no code for their own needs because
yeah,
they surely have some kind of allocated budget, resources, etc. So it's just great to hear that solutions that are on the market right now, AI powered, they can help anyone on the spectrum of the business side, like literally from one man band to enterprises. It's just crazy the application of it.
yeah. So just to bring some random examples on that, I agree with what you said. Still, no code is not or low code is not an answer to everything, but there are certain use
Yeah.
cases within those organizations that are a good fit for. So just about enterprise, because you highlighted that
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft has a platform within their ecosystem called Power Apps, and Amazon I think has one as well. That's a no code, low code builder for the Microsoft ecosystem. And
Uh-huh.
Google at some point I think acquired a product that's part of the Google Workspace right now to building. no code apps. But I'm more experienced with the Microsoft with Power Apps. You can build very, very, very good processes and applications for your organization using Power Apps internally within the existing Microsoft ecosystem that you're already using. You are probably already
Oh,
paying for, the Microsoft 365, Word, Excel, etc.
yeah.
So having someone build Power Apps for you within the Microsoft ecosystem or within the data you already have in the Microsoft Dataverse and databases, etc., is a great fit. I think this this approach from Microsoft indicates the power of it because they have incorporated a no-code product for their ecosystem and they are distributing it to all their network. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's huge.
It's wow. It's mind blowing. That's awesome.
I mean,
Uh,
and it has been there for quite some time. It's not, completely new. It's been there.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know nothing about this world, so like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I'm learning all the time as you talk. That's great. You mentioned no code apps, so do I understand it correctly that there are, and then try to hear me out. I'm trying to be very precise here. There are no code apps builders,
yeah.
so you can use a no code app to build another app that doesn't.
So that's no. So that's what I no. Yeah. So there are different builders to build different things, like website builders with no code website builders, and then there's a
Yeah.
distinction between web apps and mobile apps. So there are builders, no code builders to build web apps, or no code builder to build mobile apps, or combined.
Okay.
If you're
Okay.
asking if there are no code builders to build no code builders, I
Yeah.
don't know that. I don't
I
know.
don't know
There
where it
might be
ends,
some.
but
There might be some, but yeah.
but
Um,
staying in the realm of what we know, you said there are no codes to build mobile apps. Are those apps normally allowed into Google Store and Apple Store?
Yeah, when we say in the no code space and the terminology that I use, when I say no code mobile apps builders, I mean, or low code, I mean apps that get in the stores. Otherwise,
Wow.
I call them mobile responsive web apps or something like that because
Okay,
yeah,
got it,
because
got it,
they are
got
through
it.
the
Okay,
browser.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
Holy.
if I'm not mistaken, Flutterflow, which is a tool to, I mean, that's what I'm sure about. Flutterflow is a tool to build mobile apps with
Yeah.
low code. And it was built from some people from ex Googlers. And Flutter is a framework from Google to build one instance for both Android and iOS apps at the same time. So, I mean, the ecosystem is just connected there. And this is one of the leading tools into building mobile apps with low code.
Wow. I
The,
wonder
the
how many
what if
people
I'm
after.
mistaken is if they are ex Googlers. The rest are, as I say, they are.
Okay, okay, I got,
Yeah.
gotcha. Fine, we won't hold you to it. I wonder how many people after, I mean, me included, after listening to this conversation, they will just go and try to build a mobile app.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds
there is a
great.
learning
All you
curve.
need is an
There is
idea and some time.
there is a learning curve there. I mean, the more complex the implementation you want to do is, the more time you need. But that's why I'm still saying that developers might benefit of it because they know how to do stuff already, so they can make just their development process quicker.
It's a good point. So developers been there behind the stage. They know that, like when I code thing, I see the code written in my head before I type it out. I literally see the application puzzles coming together, all the views, all the models, all the controllers, everything. Right? I see it. So it's a great knowledge to have when you start working with no code because you can almost translate it into a no-code app with efficiency as opposed to person who has no idea what's behind the locked doors as a developer that knows, right?
True, true.
Hmm.
I mean, the learning curve for a non-developer with a developer of, when learning a low-code tool is totally different. The developer will get it in, days
Mm.
or less.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see some of the marketers trying to use it. Maybe you've known about marketers using that already in their day to day. I haven't met yet one, but based on this chat, I would encourage them to try. Just try.
Well, if anyone wants help with getting to know low code, we do free mentoring sessions on that. And recently we have soft launched a brand called No Code Mentor. So we do that to create awareness around the concept of no coding. I think it's one of the projects I mostly enjoy because it's just what I do on content.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to learn more about no code or low code, or how they can be benefited from it, like their specific use case or challenge they want to address, feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to support you.
That's very kind of you. Thank you. I think many people would love that. I think so. You said there's you help people understand no code, and there's this project going. Could you tell us where to find it? Like maybe website link or
Yeah. No code mentor.io is the website, is the URL we have where we have soft launched this website. We are still debugging. It's live. Everything is there. We're still
okay.
tweaking some things, but it's live. It's there. We
It's
already have
MVP, man.
it's 50. We already have 50 pieces of content out there, but we are still doing stuff.
And then you also said you're mentoring. That is on Growth Mentor, right?
Both. I started from Growth Mentor, but we are offering free mentoring outside of Growth Mentor as well.
Okay, cool. And if people wanted to just simply chat with you and maybe ask a follow-up question to what we were talking about, where to find you best?
They can reach out on LinkedIn, of course, or through No Code Mentor. We have a contact form. They can use that as well. And yeah,
All right, that's nice.
my inbox is zero. So if somebody
Oh
reaches
yeah,
out
I
to
love
me,
that.
yeah,
Holy crap!
if somebody
Yeah.
reaches out to me, I will answer.
Oh, I love how much we align on communication, on
Yeah,
the project management, and Inbox Zero
yeah,
was my favorite find of the year at some
yeah.
point.
Thomas, I'm not sure if inbox zero is healthy. I'm not sure if it's fortunately or unfortunately my inbox is zero, because this creates an obligation as well. But yeah, I mean, that's my personality, so I can't fight it.
I'm the same. I feel anxiety when I log into my Gmail and I see 5 emails. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm lacking. I need to catch up because that's
yeah,
just too much. But I've been zero inbox for like 5 years now.
yeah.
And just is the way it is, unfortunately, or fortunately for me. But anyway, look, Spyros, I think this is the moment when we wrap it up. I got all the links from you. We know where to find you. We know so much more about no code. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. Really appreciate your time today. I know you're constantly on the move, but I'm so glad you could find out some time to talk to me. So I really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Likewise, thank you, Thomas, for inviting me.
Thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Spyros. To support this podcast, please consider leaving a follow or sharing it with a friend. Thank you so much.